Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our NITheCS and STEM Mentor Colloquium. I am Dr. Serene Rathilal, and it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to this session. Today we have an amazing speaker joining us for the session, but before we do so, I would like to spend the next 2 to 3 minutes telling you more about who and what STEM Mentor is. And in order to do that, I'm going to quickly introduce you to the director of STEM Mentor, and that is Dr. Lungile Sithole. Dr. Lungile Sithole is a senior lecturer at the University of Johannesburg, and I'm actually now going to hand over to her.
Thanks, Serene, for the nice intro. Good morning, everybody. Firstly, thank you so much all for joining us on this first colloquium of STEM Mentor in partnership with NITheCS. So very briefly, STEM Mentor is 2 years old this year, so very exciting. So the program was established last year in 2022, and really the idea behind the program is mentorship for high flyers, high achievers, grade 12 girls who are interested in pursuing careers in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and innovation. And our job is to Serene will talk more about that, but our job is to really encourage them to pursue these careers, but also to help them bridge the gap between university and high school, because a lot of the time when they get to university, they struggle a lot. And we've seen this a lot in high achievers. So our job is to bridge that gap and to help them go through that process. And part of the program, we do a lot of fun things, also dedicated towards mental health, because that's one of the biggest things in the world at the moment, especially with female academics or females throughout, across all fields. So our job is to also give them tools that they can use as they move forward on how to take care of themselves mentally and how to take care of themselves in all other avenues. So STEM Mentor was born in 2022 at the University of Johannesburg. So when we started, the mentorship program had about 16 girls. The process is quite intense on selection. I won't go too much into that because that's not what today is about. But we have now branched out this year into 2 more universities. So we have partnered with Stellenbosch University, and the program there is ran by Dr. Ronalda. And very recently this year as well, we have partnered with UKZN, and the program there is ran by Dr. Yasira and Shavara, and Serene, who's also recently moved to UKZN. So yeah, we're quite excited about what's to come. And I think, Serene, you can share a little bit more about what are the plans in terms of rollout? Do we plan to go to other universities? And also, because this is our first colloquium, do we have plans to have more, to engage people more? Because this is really exciting for us, because it means we can get mentors from other spaces as well. So we won't be restricted to just academic mentors. So Shireen, I think you can touch up a little bit on that.
Absolutely. So yes, we do have plans for expansion. And I'm happy to report that we are looking into expanding next year at the University of Cape Town. And this is through some interactions led by Dr. Ronalda Benjamin. And she had actually identified one of our mentors, Dr. Sharifa Dalvi at UCT, that would like to lead STEM Mentor at UCT. And we're also engaging with the University of Pretoria. So we're very excited about that. And so now, touching on the question about colloquiums, well, how did this originate? This came through via one of our UKZN interactions with mentors. So maybe if this was not clear, a lot of the things that Dr. Sithole had mentioned, all of the things that we're trying to do in uplifting the female child, this is done by pairing each student with a mentor. And that is where this idea of this mentorship colloquium had been born out of. And that's where the ideal speaker, Prof. Refilwe, had emerged from. So it was the mentors at UKZN that had suggested that we run such a program. And based on this interaction, the success of it, of course, there will certainly be more. But now, without further delay, it is 5 minutes past 10. I see the numbers have risen, and I think we're ready to begin. Don't you think, Lumi?
Yes, I do. Just a quick reminder for participants to please interact with us through the chat and the Q&A section. So also type in your questions, and those will be addressed at the end of the presentation.
Perfect. So Now, without further delay, I am going to introduce you to our speaker and the woman of the next hour and 30 minutes. And that's going to be Professor Refilwe. She has an extensive bio, and let me tell you a few things about her. So Prof. Refilwe Nancy Phaswana-Mafuya is an epidemiologist and a public health scientist. She was trained at the University of Limpopo and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. She is a professor of epidemiology and public health at the Faculty of Health Sciences at the University of Johannesburg. And she is a guest epidemiology lecturer. She is also an MSc reproductive biology and reproductive health MSc lecturer in epidemiology at the Pan-African University of Life and Earth Sciences in the African Union. Preceding this, Prof. Refilwe was a Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research and Innovation at Northwest University, Acting Executive Director, Research Director, and Chief Research Manager at the HIV/AIDS STI/TB Research Program of Human Sciences Research Council, the HSRC, for nearly 13 years, as well as the editor-in-chief and executive editor of an internationally accredited African journal, Sahara J. Prof. Phaswana has worked to better understand the epidemiology of HIV in SA and sub-Saharan Africa for almost 20 years. Prof. Phaswana served as the chair of the 9th SA AIDS Conference in 2019, and this is the second largest medical meeting in the world. She is a member of the Dira Sengwe AIDS Conferences Institute, the High Health Board, the Academy of Science of South Africa's Council, and the NRF Board. She is also the Scientific Advisory Committee member of the African Health Research Institute and an expert panelist at the International Expert Panel on Infectiology, German Research Foundation. She is an NRF-rated scientist, fellow of the Academy of Science of South Africa, African Academy of Science, AAS, and the Organization for Women in Science for the Developing World, OSWD. She recently authored an inspirational and empowerment book on her career journey, Vision Never Dies, #1, Learning Curves from My Nonlinear Career Journey from Village Girl to Award-Winning Fighter of Pandemics. She was recently featured in the Fair Lady magazine, the March-April 22 issue, as one of the world-class women scientists. I'm now going to hand over to Prof. Refilwe Nancy Phaswana-Mafuya. Thank you, Prof, for agreeing to speak to all of the participants today and to share your expertise with STEM Mentor and to uplift our mentors and our participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shireen, for such a generous introduction. You know, when you provide a biography, you leave it to the person that's introducing you to just highlight a few things. I feel you've been so generous to me this morning. And I believe the audience deserve to know who is now, talking to them. So thank you very much. We will try and make up for the time. I must say I'm quite excited this morning. I wanted to ask if this is a Blue Monday for you, but yeah, I'm pleasantly shocked to see that we have 71 participants online. I better deliver after such a kind introduction. Yes, we're speaking on a subject that is very close to my heart, winning mentors. I'm a product of winning mentors, and I believe I'm a winning mentor. And by so saying, I don't mean to say that it is a given that I will succeed in every endeavor with my mentees, but I strive to succeed because it is in the heart, it is in the mind to develop the next generation. So I'm going to be giving tips on building a successful mentorship relationship. And before I go on, I just want to crack this joke, which I will end with, in my presentation. I like this conversation, and I've said this in various other presentations. the two gentlemen are speaking to each other, and the one is asking, how do you, okay, I need to deal with something. How do you manage to be cool all that time? And then the other gentleman answers, it's because oh goodness, I'm sorry. I've got so many things that are blocking my sight here that I'm trying to remove as I'm speaking. And the other gentleman says, well, oh goodness, how do I move this? Just a second. There is something that is blocking my sight. Yeah, you know, he says he doesn't argue with stupid people. He just cuts it short and say you are right. And the other guy says, you know, but that is completely irrational and wrong. And then he goes, you are right. So as I continue this presentation, and by the end of the presentation, I hope that you are not gonna say I am right, because I'm completely irrational and completely wrong. It's a pity I can't hear you laugh, because that would have given me some easiness in some ways. Oh, I see smiling faces. Let's laugh. It's Monday. Okay. Now, the purpose of my presentation, as Dr. Serene has articulately mentioned, together with the director, we want to talk about how to build a successful mentorship relationship. There is no magic bullet. I must make that disclaimer, but we believe that, you know, from my learning curves of my mentees, from observations, you know, there is something we can share. And in my presentation, I'll speak about whether do we need this kind of engagement or not? What is a mentor? What is the importance of a mentorship relationship? And some questions might sound rhetorical. I'm already speaking to mentors here, but in order for me to drive my point home, I need to unpack things systematically. So I'll talk about who benefits from a successful mentorship relationship, what techniques, what tools, what tips, you know, can we consider for a successful mentorship relationship? What is the role of a mentor in a mentorship relationship, the skills that a mentor should have, and what are the techniques that the mentor should be able to apply, and what is the impact of a successful mentorship relationship. And I'll also say a few things about common barriers to successful mentorship relationships. I hope that by the end of this session, we would have learned a thing or two, or at least related to a thing or two about what I'm going to say. So what are the sources of my presentation? I am using my experiences as a beneficiary of the generosity of research mentorship that produced the research leader that I am today. I'll be speaking from my experience on mentoring cohorts of mentees for almost 2 decades. I'll be speaking from my experience as a mentor in the Future Professors Program, as a mentor in the Organization for Women in Science in Developing Countries, as well as a director who is working at a level where the research journeys of emerging and burgeoning researchers begin and where real impact happen. Also as an author of mentorship books, and I'll talk about those just now. Yes, we will draw from these books, and Serene has alluded to Vision Never Dies. In this book, there are 13 out of 22 chapters that speak to mentorship as a labor of love. And I'll talk about it briefly. And a research mentorship book, which was launched on the 20th of July, which speaks of mentorship as a catalyst for career success. And my book, Navigating Academia, which speaks to the fact that mentorship aids in career advancement, and the book will be launched in November. Yeah, so I like the quote on the cover of Vision Never Dies. When I see young women, I see a gold mine of abilities waiting and ready to be mined to take the science enterprise forward for the betterment of society. And I believe that every mentor that is in here is exactly what they see in young women. That's why you are doing the hard job that you do. And in this book, the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Internationalization, in fact, former, because he left the university in July, wrote a congratulatory message for the book launch Vision Never Dies, and he wrote, "We are excited that Refilwe took on the challenge of writing a book that is aimed at inspiring young scientists to reach greater heights, as well as demonstrating the value of mentorship in attracting and retaining emerging scientists in academic or research careers." She illustrates this through her own career in order to bring this closer to our people. That is Professor Surab Sinha, a very supportive DVC research and innovation that we've had at the University of Johannesburg. And also a congratulatory message from Professor Saham Khan, who used to be my executive dean in the Faculty of Health Sciences and now is the DVC academic. And here she wrote, and I wrote just the second paragraph, "Prof. Phaswana-Mafuya mentored young people in their studies, careers, and personal lives, supported them in handling the occasional failures and rejections, and hence their inclination to be rigorous, as well as strengthened their tenacity to pursue difficult problems. She taught them resilience to cope with various situations, including biased, stereotypical views of women's abilities in a male-dominated society." I just thought I must share this because they also speak a lot about me and what is in my heart about mentorship, which I know I've got people around me that share similar interests this morning. So in the book Vision Never Dies, in fact, I said 13, it's actually 15 chapters that speak of mentorship as a labor of love. And in this book, I speak about how mentorship changed my career forever. I demonstrate how mentorship enhanced my career growth and that of my mentees, how mentorship opened new possibilities, how mentorship created a positive work environment, and so on. And in this book, 13 mentees are featured as pictured there, and you will see I'll be speaking or sharing their expressions about mentorship. And the other book, the research mentorship book, which was launched in July, also it's focused mainly on mentorship. It's a very exciting book, and in actual fact, it's available for free online, UJ Press. You can get a PDF version, an XML. You can get an audio or listen as you drive. But if you want a copy, you can get it at online. You can buy it at Take a Lot at a very affordable price, because we believe that this book at UJ, fulfills the SDG imperatives and societal impact, and therefore we are just actually costing the printing costs there. And Vision Never Dies, for those who might want to get hold of it, you can also buy it online. It's available. So, and we are hoping to make it open access like the research mentorship book. Now, I like to read the statement here that Professor Glenda Gray, who wrote the forward for the book, says, "The lessons drawn on in this book are clear. Do not wait to reach some place or position in life where you feel like you are prepared to give back or pour into people. You are already prepared and positioned on some level." Prof. Glenda Gray, and the rest you can read at your own spare time when you access the book online. But just to say that in this book, we talk about how mentorship enhances networks, collaborations, track record of emerging researchers, provide an opportunity to develop a profile in grant writing and developing grant writing skills, professional development, professional visibility, opportunities for co-authorships, opportunities for being involved in executing research projects and developing research skills, and personal development, ability to handle work-related gender stereotypes, and being nominated into boards, into other structures, within your professional field, and so on, basically showing how mentorship is critical in career advancement. And in this book, we also, there are a number of mentees that have been featured as reflected on the slide. Excuse me. Where am I? Yeah, so now we have also the Navigating Academia book, the referred to, and I just would like to read this part by Professor Olive Shisana, my mentor, who wrote a statement, because in here we are showing how research mentorship can help women navigate through academia. So she says this book is a vital resource for promoting transformation and radical change in academia, offering perspectives, strategies, and approaches that can be used in addressing persistent gender inequities in the field. Readers from all walks of life can glean valuable lessons from this remarkable work, allowing them to be inspired and empowered. So the book talks to issues that women are confronted with in unwelcoming work environment, the dehumanizing experiences, undue criticism, rejection, stereotypes, competing priorities, having to maintain work-life balance, implicit biases, feeling of isolation or lack of belonging, and so on, and how mentorship can assist women in navigating through racialized and genderized academic environments they find themselves in. And the book features the women that are reflected over there. Now, how did I start writing these books? This was like a real wake-up call when a young woman approaches me to say, how did you navigate your career journey from early career struggles to research leadership? How did you finish your PhD at a relatively young age of 29? How did you transition all the way from being a research assistant to being a research director, being an extraordinary research professor, deputy vice chancellor, an award winner, sophisticated science networker, socially engaged scientist? How did you do it? And, it was, I don't know if my answer is what she expected, but my answer was very simple and easy, that alone I could never have made it. It was through the unparalleled support given by remarkable mentors of virtue, stature, and influence that I made it. I was developed, transformed, shaped, and sustained in my science career progression through research mentorship. Through mentorship, I was elevated to bigger assignments, spaces, places, and platforms. Having such a support system has been pivotal in not only guiding and directing my career path, but also in creating a sense of belonging, cohesion, and solidarity that kept me in the pipeline against all odds. It induced motivation to pursue a research career and ignited my passion for science. And this is in the book, Research Mentorship. Yes, I write this statement in Vision Never Dies, that if someone had told me when I was a young girl growing up in Limpopo, a rural village called A11 in Matox, that I would one day become an award-winning scientist, I would never have believed them. And I know many young people who identify with me can say the same. So the prospects of becoming a daring scientist or pursuing any prestigious science career seemed delusional, to say the least, because I was in an environment that you would say was not science stimulating, with no facilities, having to walk 4 kilometers to school, no running water, no proper laboratory facilities. And so I wouldn't have thought I could make it, but through mentorship, I made it. Mentors, I value, and I know that you have your own struggles, you have your own workload, and you have this additional duty within your heart of developing others. Let me tell you something, you are not wasting your time. Someone like me would not have been in front of you today if I didn't have people like you. Now, my mentors, in actual fact, I want to make the point that, one can have multiple mentors. So I had multiple mentors. I prevailed on their shoulders at every turn in my career, as an early career scientist, as a mid-career scientist, and now as a senior scientist. I still need my mentors, and different mentors play different roles at different stages of one's life or career life. So I moved from learning curve to learning curve, sometimes not even realizing how useful each learning curve would become in the future. I believe that it is the learning curves that separate an outstanding career journey from a mediocre career journey. And if I had sought to do it by myself, I would have been less challenged, and I would not have had as many learning curves as I had, and therefore I would not have, I believe, reached the levels that I have reached. And if I can tell you, one of my first mentors, Professor Carl Pelzer, who initiated me into a research career, was someone that I honestly didn't identify with. But you know, in actual fact, most of the things that he wanted me to do, I did them out of fear. Over time, however, we developed a rapport because I saw someone who has my interest at heart. I saw someone who saw potential in me, potential that I even didn't know that I had. He actually sort of imposed himself upon me because at that time, I had a mentor at a time when I didn't know I needed any. You know, after getting my junior degree, all I wanted was to work, help my parents and my sibling also to advance in their studies. But there was someone who said, hang on, you can do your master's degree, you can do your PhD, you know, and going to an extent of driving with me. This was in 1999, and I got my PhD in 2002. In those days, we didn't have information on internet as we do, but he drove with me to various universities to go into various libraries to try and find what my topic could be. And at that time, I wasn't really keen deep down in my heart. But today we are the best of friends, and I can never, you know, trade him for anything. And Professor Olive Shisana was the kind of mentor that I identified. I saw myself in her. And when I saw her, I said, one day I'd like to be like this woman. And I happened to have a chance, like a split second, when she was running the Sahara Conference in 2004. And I said to her, you know, I saw her speaking to Nelson Mandela, the former president, speaking to, you know, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and she was short and they were tall, but she was speaking with such vigor and, you know, respect. And I said, wow, this woman. Long story short, she appointed me as the first research director at the HSRC, the Black woman research director, where I worked with 4 other men, and I was the only Black woman and the only native South African. And she ensured my promotions. She ensured that, you know, in an environment that is male-dominated, I survive, and not only survive, but also thrive. And long story short, I chaired the Sahara Conference that she has chaired. I chaired the National AIDS Conference that she has chaired because she nominated me. I became an ASAF merited scientist because she is an ASAF merited scientist. She nominated me. Man, there was a time I wanted to stop working because I couldn't maintain work-life balance. And if I were to talk about that, believe you me, I'll take the entire time. But long story short, there was just one particular day where I said, I can't make it. My baby was sick. I spent my whole day to and from the office, because when I got to the office, they said the baby has temperature. I had to drive back, and I lived in Cape Town at the time, and you use either the N1 or the N2, and there was another accident. It took me 3 hours to get home. By the time I get to the baby, by the time I took her to the doctor, the day was finished, and I felt overwhelmed. My husband was living 700 kilometers away, Port Elizabeth. I then thought, let me have the courtesy to tell Professor Sishana that I was leaving. And guess what she said? She said, you are not going to exit. You're going to move to Port Elizabeth. You're going to work from home. You're going to be with your husband. You're going to have your support system around you and continue, because you are a rising star. You know, mentorship. And I can talk about the 3 singularly. These have been my recent mentors. I've collaborated with Johns Hopkins for over 10 years and with Emory University for over 10 years. And I'm now running an SAMRC unit, you know, supported by Prof. Gray. These things didn't just evolve, they involved engagement and support and advice, you know, from people that have been my support system, my mentors. Yeah, so basically, mentorship is the key to career success. If you ask me why, I'll tell you it's because I am right here to prove that. And I'm very glad that I am seeing more and more, notices. We are looking for mentors. African Academy of Science, where I'm a fellow, they've put out a call for mentors. OSU, where I'm a fellow, they've put out a call for mentors. HSA, where I was speaking in a week or so, they have a mentorship program which they are commemorating. So I can mention STEM Mentor is one of those organizations, and I believe we are on the right path, on the right course, because if we want to transform our society, mentorship is the way to go. And I've been privileged to speak on various events since June to date about mentorship. Mentorship in the science space at WIPISA, mentorship, this other one was on nonlinear career pathing and mentorships, Saibono, mentorship or paying it forward, showing how through mentorship we can pay it forward, has a COP pages, which is a USAF initiative. I spoke a few weeks ago, some of you might have been there, Black Women in Science, and so on. And I'm really glad about this mentorship activism, webinars, panels, colloquia, and so on mentorship, because if there's a subject that we need to speak of like almost on a daily basis, it's mentorship. So yeah, now I am now changing gears and really now talking about how to ensure that a mentorship relationship are successful. And like I've mentioned before, it's not like I've got a bucket of solution or an algorithm on how to build a mentorship relationship, but I think through homegrown experience and my learning curves and that of my mentees, we can learn something or share something. Yeah. As I mentioned in the slide about what I will cover, as my point of departure with regard to mentorship relationships, do we need training on mentorship? My answer, to this question is not really, because mentorship is a labor of love. However, much as you have been mentors before you even got trained, to prove my point, because mentorship is not necessarily a learned activity. It often happens naturally because it is about passion to change life, to build the next generation. Also, we always believe that there is a room for improvement. We always believe that learning is a lifelong process and that you can never plateau in learning. If you stop learning, you stop living. That's why we have platforms of this nature to share experiences, to exchange approaches, to share ideas and even linkages, resources and networks. Listen to what an award-winning mentor had to say about mentorship. But mentoring, as we have heard, is often learned on the job. And this learning continues throughout your career. You can always improve. I'm sure that my mentoring can also be improved. And if you care about it, it will come naturally. And usually we all sit in departments and faculty, and there are people that we know that would mentor also. We can always ask them advice and get feedback, and we can only improve. We just need to care. I think that the critical aspect is to care. Yeah. The point here is that as mentors, we care, and that is most critical, and that mentorship happens naturally. However, we can improve. We can learn a thing or two. Okay. I'm trying to move to the next slide. Sometimes things just freeze. Yeah. What is the role of a mentor? I felt that we must really underscore this, because it's important that a mentor knows his or her place in a mentorship relationship, irrespective of the type of mentorship, because there are different types of mentorship. It can be formal or informal, but the mentor's role is constant. It can be the approaches can be peer-to-peer, group mentoring, reverse mentoring, or speed mentoring, where you for a given short period of time, you equip some young people on particular aspects and the mentorship ends, or reverse mentoring, where the people that you are mentoring are also mentoring you by sharing their knowledge and experience and so on, irrespective of what approach in mentoring you are utilizing at a particular time in a given context. The mentor's role is constant. A mentor is not a dictator. A mentor is not a teacher. A mentor is a friend to his or her mentees, is an encourager, is an advocate, is a coach, is a parent, is a mother, a father, a warm hug, a listening ear, a counselor, a guide, and much more that a young person or a colleague can benefit, without necessarily having to depend on themselves for everything. So mentees find a place to open up, to vent, to catharsize, discuss, brainstorm, innovate, create, and problem solve in a mentor. How significant a mentor is. Listen here, what award-winning mentors say about the role of a mentor. Hannah Margalit, a bioinformatician and computational biologist at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, a mentor to many researchers over the years, was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award. And I'm sorry about my stammering. I have a lot of information to share, and I want to move through my slides as quickly as possible. And so I'm overtaking my tongue. So this is what she had to say. I never really thought about it, when she was asked, why are you mentoring? She says, I never really thought about it. It's so much built in me that I think this is one of the main tasks of a principal investigator in the university. We are doing the research together with the students, and we have a common aim, and one is more experienced than the other. So I make sure that they will get all the qualifications that they need in order to become independent researchers. And then here is what my sister had to say about me. My sister is a director at UNISA. She is a public health scientist as well. And this point, I put it here because it resonates with what the award-winning mentor said, Hannah. My sister says, when my sister sees potential, she cannot help it. She nourishes it. She supported and challenged me throughout my academic life, from undergraduate degree to my doctorate. I dare say that it felt like she was pushing me too much at the time, but her efforts resulted in my passing some of my courses with distinctions, and so on and so on and so on. And what other award-winning mentors say about the role of mentors? NetHER says, what I tell my students when they come to do a PhD in my lab is that they start with me as my students, but I want them to graduate as my peers. In other words, mentorship prepares young scientists, young researchers, young academics, to become successful in their careers versus necessarily them just attaining their degrees. They become better scientists. In fact, another award-winning scientist, Tal Papko, says, mentorship is your way to provide means for your students to grow up, both in science and at a personal level, so that they become better persons, better scientists, and better everything. And she goes on to say, so you don't care so much about the science, because in science you care about them. You want them to become better scientists. You want them to become a better person, to think more critically about things, about improving their computational scale, writing skills, or their soft set of skills, and to enjoy it along the way. Now, what mentees say about the role of a mentor, and now I'll talk about my mentees, and one of them is sitting right here with me, Dr. Edith Palani. She's the one that was helping me, and she is a destiny helper and more. who shares her knowledge, expertise, and experience. And she goes on to say, it humbles me beyond words that when I first saw Prof, I knew she was my destiny helper. It was a moment of confirmation and affirmation that I can make it. I am grateful to have an and both development and career advancement as in science. And this is my sister that I alluded to earlier on, and she says a mentor is a mentee says a mentor is a role model. And this one, she has such an amazing story. She had come for an internship program unit, and to observe the studies done and learned a lot of interesting things about public health researchers and what one can possibly become. I therefore enrolled and completed my MPH, utilizing the knowledge I had gained in the research projects that I was involved in. So trying to demonstrate the fact that a mentor is a role model. This is my other younger sister who also says, among all of us as siblings, my sister has been a role model for all of us. Again, reinforcing the fact that a mentor is a role model, a guide, and a sponsor who links mentees to various resources. And Zintle, who now is at VETS RHI, says a mentor is a catalyst for career success. And Prof. Glenda Gray says mentors are critical for career success. And in the foreword, she writes, a lack of mentors, occasional overt discrimination, and the academic's poor work-life balance are well-documented reasons for women's lack of career progression. You know, you will say, oh, the speaker has been going on and on and on about how important mentors are and the role that mentors play and how pivotal they are in career advancement. My belief is that, you know, continuing to inspire one another on the role that we play is much more important than anything that I'm going to say, you know, today. I just want to know you to know that you are to be celebrated, to be recognized, to be supported for the significant role you play. Many a times, Magdalene Skipper, another award-winning mentor, says, mentors are not acknowledged for what they are. You know, we speak about mentorship, we talk about how important it is, but we never pause, you know, to appreciate those that are doing something else, something rewarding, something fulfilling, something a lot important called mentoring. And given the amount of time these people spend, it is important that the work that they do is recognized. In fact, she writes, we all know that mentorship is important, and yet we don't seem to value it appropriately and indeed recognize individuals who devote time and energy and passion to mentoring. According to me, such people's workload should be looked into. Such people promotions should be looked into. Such people nominations, you know, and being given awards and being celebrated on a daily basis. As a country, we are still far from it. As academia, we are still far from it. But yeah, I'm very glad we're having a colloquium of this nature, because this is also to say, mentors, you are important. You know, I took, you know, this, I thought it summarizes it all. How many people in a given day just write, dear boss, I quit? But I can tell you that because of the great work that mentors do every day, a lot of people who could have said that have not said that. I'm one of the people that said, I want to quit, but I did not leave because of mentorship. So sometimes even if people can say it, when they have mentors, they will not quit. The mentors will not let them quit. This is so important. So mentorship is very beneficial. It's a win-win solution for mentors, for mentees, for organization. That, you know, if I had time and I just deliberately put this on slides to show that this is factual information about the fact that organizations benefit quite a lot in terms of productivity, in terms of visibility in terms of committed workforce because of mentorship. You know, there are benefits also for mentees, obvious ones, because mentees are there really to support, mentors are there to support mentees in every way possible as guide, and I've already alluded to that. And there are benefits to mentors as well, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. You know, I mean, if you are pregnant with knowledge, expertise, you would want to deliver it to deliver it somewhere, and having an opportunity to do that, it's something to appreciate. Mentorship builds influence and reputation. I believe I've developed influence and reputation as a leader because who grooms talent, and I couldn't ask for anything better. It gives me a sense of purpose, personal satisfaction, you know, and my mentees are my support system. I'm able to multiply my efforts to address my limitations in some respects with the abilities of my mentees, especially techno-wise and whatnot. They help me to move with the times, and they help me to have some deeper reflection on my subject matter. Yeah. What is a mentor-mentee relationship? Now that we have unpacked what a mentor is, the role of a mentor, the pivotal nature of mentorship in a career. A sustainable mentorship relationship is built on a foundation of passion, courage, hard work, social justice, a sense of purpose, and responsibility. It is also built on respect, trust, openness, integrity, sincerity, values, and so on. A mentor-mentee relationship is really where the rubber meets the road, because without a vibrant relationship between a mentor and a mentee, you know, all the benefits that I've spoken about, all the impacts on one's career that I've spoken about will be something that remains to be seen. It takes both the mentor and the mentee to have a successful relationship, and it's called a relationship for a purpose. So it can never be expected that a mentor on her own can actually make the relationship survive. It takes two to succeed. So, and in that relationship, the mentee is responsible for driving the mentorship relationship. Leaving the mentorship relationship in the hands of the mentor is equal to disaster, you know, because imagine how many mentees a mentor has. So mentees have to be self-driven. They have to want to do it. They have to know what they want to achieve, and they have to take responsibility to ensure that they are getting that which they are wanting to get from the mentee. So, and mentorship is a first choice, not only to the mentor, cannot be made a first choice, not to the mentor, not even to the mentee, because you force you know, someone to become a mentee, you are not going to succeed in that relationship, because they will not drive the relationship. They will not know why they are in that relationship. Yes, there are times when a person does not know that they need mentorship, especially when you talk about matriculants and so on. So the responsibility of the mentor becomes first and foremost to make them realize that they can benefit, you know, from someone who is more experienced, and get them to be on that common ground. And until you've got such a common ground, moving on to other things will just be a waste of time, because the mentorship relationship will not be sustained. So mentorship is not a Herculean event. It doesn't happen osmotically. It doesn't just, you don't just wake up and find a successful mentorship relationship. It's something you work at. It requires a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And in circumstances where mentors are not paid, you know, for doing that, or if they are just given an honorarium in some cases, but mostly it's voluntary work, it's the work of love. Yeah. So one of the mentees says, what I found most valuable from mentorship was the time, resources, and motivation invested in me to make sure I'm the woman I am today. As in all relationship, the relationship between a mentor and a mentee is a two-way process. I've mentioned that a mentorship relationship is not a teacher-student or boss-subordinate relationship. A mentor listens carefully, empathizes, validates, collaborates, challenges, and finds ways to develop a mentee towards becoming an independent scientist. I'm sorry, there's a typo there. Working with them. The principle of self-determination is very important. We don't impose ourselves. We engage with them. We support them in what they are endeavoring to achieve. And then a mentee responds, appreciates, learns, and grows from the teachings given to advance his or her career. If a mentee does not respond or appreciate or is not willing to learn or not even seeing the need to grow, it would be difficult to sustain a mentorship relationship. And one of my mentees, with says, a mentor-mentee relationship is like a parent-child relationship. I have experienced the mentor-mentee relationship to be more like a mother-daughter relationship, as it provided an opportunity for discussion about everything academically, personally, and socially. What is a successful mentorship relationship? In my view, a successful mentorship relationship addresses the vulnerabilities of a mentee to produce positive career outcomes and long-term career impacts. And to that effect, I've done this graphic to show the nature of career vulnerabilities that mentees or early career researchers, early career scientists, early career academics, learners, are confronted with. For example, they don't have networks, they don't have a profile to attract external funding, they don't have collaborators, they don't have writing skills, they lack awareness in terms of available opportunities, they don't have insight in the field, they have self-concept issues, they may have some negativism, they might feel despondent, they might feel alone on the road and whatnot. So many vulnerabilities, the list is endless. And through mentorship, the following career outcomes can be achieved, and I've alluded to quite a number of them, and long-term impacts. That's where we say better scientists, better academics, that are highly competitive, have credibility, have reputation, have influence in society, and so on. So you can imagine what would happen if we didn't have mentorship. What skills, attributes, or qualities should a mentor have? I know indirectly I've covered quite a lot, and I just want to say that there are fundamental values and principles that guide mentor-mentee relationship, which remain constant across geographics, institutions, cultures, across different career development stages. And it is important that mentors know their role, and we've touched on that. Mentors share their expertise. That's what mentorship is all about. Mentors have to have passion about their work. They have to be willing to learn. In other words, flexible and open-minded. They must have the emotional intelligence to handle tough conversations with their mentees. They must have the ability to communicate so that they can transfer their knowledge and skills, and they must have it in them, the passion to help others. And I've put in the two books, Vision Never Dies and the Research Mentorship book, a summary of the kind of qualities or attributes that a mentor should have: being approachable, accessible, enthusiastic about their own career, because how do you give what you don't have? Inspirational, being perceptive, and not only perceptive, but receptive as well, listening, having a listening ear, attentive, being action-oriented, wanting to deliver something, being supportive, being appreciative, celebrating mentees for what they do, being non-judgmental, because you'll find that mentees sometimes, at a particular point, they do not value what is happening because they are lost in it. They don't realize that they need mentorship, like I have been, before, but eventually they realize how important this was in their career. These are some of the attributes, and Zintle says, describing some of the attributes of a mentor: I've been so fortunate to have such a passionate, knowledgeable, approachable, and accessible mentor who's available to provide much needed support, and so on. And Lebohang says, I've loved the fact that my mentor is approachable, full of life, knowledgeable, and continues to learn and strive to be the pinnacle of Black excellence. Colleagues, I am sharing this because I believe in homegrown knowledge. I just want to show you, and I know some of you have heard this many times, to show you how our mentees perceive us and what they enjoy about us. You really cannot be a mentor if you are not approachable and accessible. And the fact that you are a mentor, it means you share these qualities. And Ms. Zamakwa says, I have to say my mentor is a natural groomer with a very soft spot for young people like me who are eager to learn. Without doubt, the mentorship of young people is very close to her heart. And that's you, colleagues. Describing other attributes, Odiwe says, my mentor was the first wind that blew beneath my career wings. My mentor has the most natural personality I've ever seen. Her natural grooming attributes brought out the best in me. Yeah, but you know what? There is a part that mentees should play, and there is nothing for mahala. So it's not all about mentors helping mentees, to swim through and not drown. Mentees have to come into the equation. So a successful mentorship is mentors' attributes, tools, techniques, plus mentees' attributes equals to a successful mentorship relationship. And here I show some of the qualities, attributes, skills that mentees should have. Proactiveness being one of them. Like I said, mentees should drive the relationship. Tenacity, hardworking, being committed. If I were to tell you, I've got over 50 mentees, and someone will ask me, how are you doing it? My mentees are doing it for me, because all I have to do is to give them support, the support that they need, tailored support, engage with them. They set up the appointment. They say, okay, let's go for dinner. All I have to check is whether my schedule allows. They say, I want to meet you X number of times. And of course, they are being considerate about the fact that I have other responsibilities and so on. So without even realizing it, I find myself having done so much for so many people because they meet me halfway. But guess what? If my mentees were sitting there folding their arms saying, I'm waiting for you to guide me, to support me, they probably would get nothing from me. And I was quite perplexed when my mentees wrote on the Admire Challenge of the OSD on Twitter about how they appreciated the role I played. I recall one time my daughter got a Grammy Award for art. And I was like, what did you do to get that? She said, what do you mean? She actually, it came out so natural that she didn't realize it. So when I saw this, I was like, really? Is this what my mentees think about me? Because I never thought necessarily about what I'm doing. Yeah, so I hope that stories of this nature can be recorded more, because we need to tell them more and more. Now I'm talking, I'm going to touch on a number of techniques, and I want to underscore that mentors set mentees on a path to self-discovery and self-mastery, self-knowledge, self-awareness, and self-determination. In fact, I normally say that, the first rule is know thyself, and the second rule is know thyself and the one that you are working with, and this is the case with mentorship. Getting to know your mentee is very critical, because how do you help someone that you don't really know? So that's a pivotal technique. Get to know your mentee on an individual basis so that you can meet your mentee where he or she is, because mentees tend to seek mentors that they see themselves in. Of course, even if I'm a Black woman, and I may naturally be attracted to a Black woman mentor, it doesn't automatically mean that therefore my background, where I have been, what my actual needs are, but what it basically means is there are some tick boxes that we can have, but we still need to explore further so that the mentorship responds to the needs of the mentee. And about getting to know the mentee, you need to do a SWOT analysis of the mentee. Know precisely what their weaknesses, strengths, opportunities, and threats are, and then, so that you can develop a plan that is responsive to the needs of the mentee. And needless to say that the mentor would have done a SWOT analysis of themselves so that they can match, their strength, with the weaknesses of the mentor, their opportunities with the threats of the mentor, to move the mentor forward. And Zinhle is speaking about how excited she felt when she saw someone who was a Black woman in a position of power. She immediately knew she was going to learn a lot. So mentees, like I said, can identify themselves with mentors who share certain characteristics, but that doesn't mean that we've got to take it for granted that I know what people in the villages need. No, she is an individual, and the support must be personalized, individualized. And Dr. Edith Palan says, I identify myself with and in her, my mentor. As such, I wanted to learn from and with her so that I can one day become like her or even better than her and be an independent and sought after Black woman in STEM scientist like her. Yeah, again, much as she's saying that, you don't assume. And when you have now done a SWOT analysis of your mentees, you can now develop SMART objectives, develop a plan. And usually, in my experience, it's not so much about having a plan on paper with bold items and, we're going to move this way, because in real world, that's not how things move. Usually, I just need to know what the needs of the mentee is, what would they love to achieve, what are their expectations from me, and then naturally we work together towards achieving what we have set to achieve. But as we do that, we reflect from time to time, evaluate where the mentee was and where the mentee is and where the mentee is going, so that we are sure that we are on course. Here is another mentee who defined her goals with the help of a mentor so that she can operate in a focused manner. Again, Dr. Edith Palan. And I have chosen this picture because she grew up having to pass through the river, during rainy weathers, sometimes getting to school wet, and drying out as the day goes on in order to attain education. She grew up carrying water, 20-liter bucket of water, every day to make sure that they're able to cook, they're able to bath, and so on. But listen, she says, my mentor and I engaged and conversed intensively on my short, medium, and long-term goals, and then together we strategized on how to achieve these goals. I know where I'm coming from, where I am now, and where I'm going. And in another quotation that I haven't included, she says, and the future looks so bright such that I need sunglasses. That's what we want to hear our young people say. So another technique, be deliberate about introducing and connecting mentees to networks, people, and opportunities. And that role is actually referred to as being a sponsor, as a mentor. Because there are so many opportunities that mentees may not be aware of. And because of these linkages, mentees can be nominated. You've heard, I'm in boards. Like I started at a young age because I was nominated, because I was showed opportunities for memberships, because I became aware of certain fellowships and scholarships. Did you know that when I studied at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, I was recommended by my mentors. I had to compete with applicants from 26 African countries, and there were 480 applications, out of which 5 were chosen, and I was one of the 5 applicants that succeeded. Imagine me. The point here is mentorship, mentorship, mentorship. Through mentorship, I was just ahead of my peers, and that's why I could secure that. The painful part is the rest of the other, 475 potential, recipients of the scholarship didn't get it, and probably it's because there was no one to mentor them. Look at this with Seppo Hopan says, I'm a young scientist for whom doors of opportunity were opened. I'm still speaking about the fact that a technique that is critical in mentorship is to link mentees with networks. And so Seppo says, I'm a young scientist for whom doors of opportunity were opened. I was exposed to networking opportunities that brought visibility to my work and enabled me to gain access to new opportunities and contacts that I tapped into. And I see my time is running out because I want us to have some time to discuss. Give me like just 5 more minutes to wrap up so that we can talk a little bit. So this is what Seppo was able to achieve. Seppo has a series of awards under her belt because of mentorship. And Dr. Edith Palance says, I've seized the opportunities that have been shared with me by my mentor, and she has been named the Young Mandela of the future, the Mail and Guardian 200 young South Africans who are leading in science, a Lindau alumni, a beacon of hope in her village where she became the first PhD graduate. That's mentorship for you. And she scooped various awards as reflected on the slide. And then another technique is be honest in giving feedback to build a mentor-mentee relationship that helps mentees grow. Mentors have to give honest feedback and teach their mentees that feedback is not criticism, and feedback does not mean they are bad, or if I say something bluntly, I'm arrogant. There's a need at times for a mentor to say, look, you are not serious. I'm not sure what you want. Being straight talk, being truthful, being blunt about some issues so that the mentee can grow. And also in the same manner, there's a time to validate the mentee, to give them the self-confidence. I can remember how my mentor, used to say, well done. There are times when you say well done, not because the mentee has really done well, but because you're comparing the mentee with herself, and you know the context of the mentee, you know where the mentee is coming from, and the mentee would be feeling that, oh, I've let myself down, or I've let my mentor down, but the mentor will come, with that counsel, with that spirit of non-judgmental attitude, and embracing the mentor to say, listen, you did well. And they'll find another day to say tactfully, you can improve on X and Y and whatnot. But yes, being honest, it's very important. And I've learned from my mentees that they really appreciate this. Zama says, I've enjoyed a very sincere relationship characterized by openness and frankness, where if I did well, I would be applauded. If I didn't do well, I would be told openly, no matter how uncomfortable it felt. And one of my mentees says, I've been grateful for the transparent and open mentorship relationship. My mentor is realness personified. And another technique is be vulnerable as a mentor. How many people see mentors or professors as perfect beings, that don't have successes and struggles, that have never learned it the hard way, and so on. I have seen how important it is to share your struggles, to share your successes, make yourself vulnerable. Listen to what this mentee says. There's a need for more professors to bridge the gap. I often think about the life experiences and challenges that my mentor shared with me and derive strength from this. Another mentor says, my mentor shared her experiences on balancing work and family life. I cannot forget her story on how she navigated through some of the struggles that we go through as women. I've been encouraged by her experiences, especially where she had to be at work while having morning sickness in her first term of pregnancy every day for 3 months while being in a new job. You know, I recall how I told my mentees that I used to lock up my office, lie flat on the carpet to recover, and how guilty I felt. But thankfully, I shared this with my mentor, who embraced me and said, you are a woman, it's your job to give birth to children. Even my daughter in the US is pregnant. But even if she had said that, you know, I felt that, you know, receiving such support, the least I can do is to sound like I'm giving excuses. It was self-imposed, and you know, so mentorship at that time when I needed that support was quite critical. And today I use my stories to encourage young women, as an elderly woman now who no longer have to deal with such issues. They are there and they are very real. Another important technique, as I draw to a close, commitment is key, consistency and reliability, just like in any relationship. You know, if you said you're gonna meet your mentee, you have to stick to that. And if you are not able to, you have to accordingly apologize. Life always happens, but always show the mentee that you are committed and they can trust you about the relationship that they have with you, because a strong rapport reinforces work commitment, as Zintle puts it. Be mindful of power dynamics. I've said this over and over. A mentor-mentee relationship is not authority-based. It's like a parent-child relationship. Driving it almost as if it's a lecturer-student relationship can become very stressful. Mentees can become fearful, and it can end up not being as productive as it should be. And mentees might feel they are judged, they might feel stupid, they might not want to share their ideas and so on. So that is so critical. Mentor is like a mother. I've mentioned that. Common barriers to mentorship: not defining the purpose. In fact, it's not doing the things that I have said, and wrong pairings, insufficient support, not monitoring the work that is being done, not knowing, you know, like, and it goes for any relationship. I mean, if you don't see what you are doing, you don't know what you are doing, you can't see any progress, you obviously will be discouraged. So mentorship is very impactful. It has ripple effects. It breeds mentorship. In fact, the hallmark of mentorship is generational change. You know, I just loved this picture. So mentees, my mentees are currently paying it forward. And this, I just wanted to show you the impact of mentorship, that if you mentor, mentees will also mentor others. For example, if you have been mentored, you will likely mentor others. Because of time, I won't read that. So my mentorship experience has encouraged me to pay it forward, PIF. And this is a concept I taught, or I shared at SSA, and every woman was like saying, let's PIF, let's pay it forward. So when I look at my mentors, I ask myself, how can I pay it back? How can I repay them for all what they've done to me? And I realized that I cannot begin to repay them. The only thing I can do is to pay it forward by mentoring others. And so I continue to mentor others. And what has really made my heart bubble with joy is to see my mentees mentoring others. For example, this mentee has already mentored 30 honor students. She is busy paying it forward. Another mentee, Dr. Palani, says, being mentored by one of the best mentors I've ever had. I am now involved in peer mentorship, supporting peers in their research projects and papers, nominating them for opportunities, and she has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 mentees under her belt already. She's still a young scientist. Now, looking back, as a mentor, I've learned that it is the simplicity and humility of my humble beginnings that enabled me to become more empathetic and sympathetic towards others who needed support as I once did. I think that if I had been privileged materially, and I probably would not have developed the resilience needed to endure some of the many struggles and ultimately to successfully carve my path for others to follow. My background, and this is what I tell even youngsters. I haven't put some of the slides here when I go to schools because I do outreach, to say that my background, which I had originally considered a hindrance, became an ideal sword to empower and inspire others. And I want to give this to you, mentors. Embrace your background. You are here for a reason. You grew up the way you did for a reason. Who knows that also has created a heart of mentorship in you. I hope that this session has provided you with some actionable tips, techniques, and tools, principles, and values and skills to build a successful mentorship relationship. Mentorship is not a silver bullet that just automatically creates success. You have to work hard at it. That's my message to you. Be empowered, be inspired. Thank you very much. And I hope that you are not going to clap hands and raise your voices and say, well done, because I'm stupid and irrational and what I said is wrong, but because you feel empowered and inspired. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. I wish we could turn on everyone's mic and hear them clap and shout and whatever else. But thank you so much for that inspirational talk. I really have no words. It was fully packed, but I can tell you there are a lot of key concepts, a lot of key things that you talked about that most of us are going to go back and reflect on as both mentors and mentees. Thank you for your time, Prof, and thank you for sharing a part of yourself, because when you speak to people, when you mentor people as well, it is sharing a piece of yourself every single day. So I will now like to invite colleagues to type in any questions that you may have. And while you're doing that, Prof, I do have a few questions that I would like to ask as well. So my first question to you is, you mentioned that you mentor quite a number of people. I think you mentioned 50 as a number. I would really like to know, how do you manage your time, specifically as an academic? Because we always feel like we are chasing behind time. We feel like we don't have enough hours in a day. How do you manage mentoring 50 people? While being a researcher, world-renowned researcher, while being a supervisor for postgraduate students, so while juggling everything else, as well as your personal life, how do you manage all of that?
Thank you very much. Simple answer: mutual interests, mutual goals. So as I mentor, I also receive. So I'm able to advance, I'll give you an example. I've got 9 PhD students. I've got about 30 MSc students. My mentees go through the submissions of my MPH students, my mentees who are PhD students. So they weed out, the obvious things and engage with the students that I supervise. And in that way, I'm able to supervise as many students because I've got mentees. So mutual goals, mutual interests. We are one hand washes the other. So I can never divorce myself from my mentees because they are my hands and feet, ears and eyes, actually.
I like that. I think the next talk we must give is about strategic thinking, because that has a lot to do with strategic thinking. You're quite strategic in that. I do have another question here on the Q&A, and I'm going to read it out. Thank you very much for sharing your journey. What do you think institutions can do to support and encourage mentors? For example, in my institution, there is nowhere where it is recognized and given the many demands on academics. This means that there is a juggle and intentional decision on how to share one's time and energy. So in essence, what can institutions do to support us as mentors to move forward?
Thank you very much. I think universities are beginning to realize the importance of mentorship. I was presenting at USAF across various universities, and the question that I was answering there was what can institutions do to have successful mentorship programs? And I shared a model that I believe would work. Number one, identifying the needs, of the mentees in that particular institution, coming up with a plan of action, and putting in practice some best practices, such as ensuring, that the mentorship program utilizes conventional successful methods like the ones I've spoken about, having some recognition of sort, for mentors, making sure that mentorship is as visible as possible, ensuring that workloads for those who are mentoring are considered, like actually systematizing mentorship, ensuring that it is actually incorporated in the academic project of the university. And that's what I spoke about, and I'm hoping that the USAF Corp pages will take forward some of the recommendations that I have made, because they found it quite helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Prof. Yes, and I agree. I think it's a lot of work. Mentorship it's really a lot, and institutions need to recognize it, not just in academia, but across.
Yeah.
So I have another question here. My question, I'm an executive at work. I sometimes struggle with conflict of interest. As an executive, I sit in a boardroom where we discuss talent for promotions. When I advocate for good talent, and when it so happens that this person is my mentee, I really feel uncomfortable and question my possible bias. I always strive to be bias-free, but sometimes we are not aware of our bias. So, Prof, I think here the question, because there wasn't really a structured question, but the question really here is, how do you then draw the line where you want to really be supportive and scream out for your mentee? You want your mentee to be promoted because you know the background work, right? You see everything that goes into what they deliver. So how do you draw the line where you feel that, okay, you're not being biased, you're not really crossing ethical rules, or so to say. So how do you do that while being a good mentor, a good support system, or a good, I think the word that you used, a sponsor. So how do you do that while being a good sponsor for your mentee?
There's nothing unethical about advocating for your mentee. There's no conflict of interest. There's no line to draw. You are not there supporting your spouse, so that the income can be doubled in your coffers. You are there to support a brilliant youngster that is a rising star. And for that, you need not be apologetic. You just have to say what you need to say about the potential that such a person has. And of course, at the end of the day, you may not have control over whatever decision that is made, but you would have said your point. And that's what matters. And that's the feedback I would even give to my mentee if she doesn't get promoted and so on. And I'll tell them that it doesn't matter. As I always say, I say to my mentee, strive to be the best that you can be. I'm not preparing you for this institution. I'm preparing you for the world. So if you don't assume a particular position here, you definitely will assume a higher position elsewhere.
Oh.
So that's it. You just have to be a better scientist to have doors open for you. It's not about positions.
Yeah. So just a follow up to that one, Prof. As a mentee, because you never get to an age where you are just a mentor. I mean, even when you are a seasoned scientist, you still need mentorship, right? So as a mentee, how do you actually know that your mentor is saying your name in important rooms? And if they are not, how do you overcome that as a mentee? Because we all want to grow. And, at times we tend to be strategic about who our mentors are in specific areas of our lives. So how do you overcome finding out that your mentor is probably not saying your name in the right spaces, or in the spaces where they probably should be saying your name?
That person is not a mentor, period. A mentor will shove your name even where it's not needed. That's just how it goes. They will drive the discussion to another corner and be called to order for mentioning their mentee. That's what will happen.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I have another very important question here, specifically for academics. So the person in question says, I was told I cannot put mentorship as evidence of excellence as a senior lecturer for my performance management because that is just part of my job, as they say it. So how do I counter this when discussing it with the review board?
Yeah, this is where systemic changes need to happen. But nonetheless, if your institution is not where it is supposed to be in terms of mentorship, I wouldn't advise that you should waste your time and energy, focusing on fighting that battle. I'll just say, continue doing the great work. If that institution does not recognize you, the world will recognize you. And I'm a lived experience of that. Talk mentorship, you're talking Refilwe. I never do it because I'm an employee at UJ and so on. Oh, I want a 13th check. I want a promotion. I may never see that ever, but I continue doing it because I know what I'm doing. I'm building the next generation of scientists, and I see them grow every day, scooping awards, and that is where my reward is.
I like that, Prof. So last question before we let you go for the day. What challenges have you had to overcome as a mentor? Because, I mean, sometimes you meet mentees, personalities, there's a personality clash. There's vision clashes. There's so many things that differ between us as individuals. So what specific challenges that you think were really important for you as you are moving forward as a mentor? What were they and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. What I've noticed is one is not a mentor just for everybody. There are specific qualities that I have that can match with certain mentees. I can tell you in some instances, I'm the worst mentor. Like if a mentee is not driven, a mentee does not give me something to work with, a mentee needs constant follow-up from me, I would definitely have an unproductive mentorship relationship. I work well with mentees that bear the attributes that I have shared. Mentees who are who put me on the spot, who demand my attention, who push or pull me in one way or the other to pay attention to what they're saying. And sometimes, because of busyness, I might say, okay, we'll do it next week or so. I expect my mentee to say, you said we will do it next week or so. And I can renegotiate, So yes, if a mentee is folding arms and waiting for manna from heaven, they're definitely going to fail. I'm going to fail decimally as a mentor. I have not as yet necessarily ended a mentorship relationship. You know why? Not because every mentorship relationship has been perfect, but because of open and frank conversation about my observations with regard to the mentorship relationship. So in that process, I end up sometimes learning more about why is it that that particular mentee is behaving the way they did or are not coming forth and whatnot. And then we develop some plan of action that will work, for both of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. I think last words from me before I hand over to Serene to close. We do have a couple of our STEM mentors that are in this chat, and to them I would like to really say from the bottom of our hearts, we see you and we value you. Serene, over to you.
Thank you, Lungi. What a way to actually end. I actually echo those sentiments, and I just want to say thank you to Prof. Refilwe. You have inspired us today. You have shared so many insights that we can put into practice. So thank you once again for dedicating your time pay it forward in this way. I think that was one of the takeaways that I had today as well, and that's paying it forward. And I think that is truly the essence of what STEM Mentor is in all its glory. It's about doing that and, you know, raising young girls and having them achieve their own potential. One of the things that did come through a lot in the chat box was that apart from being inspired from you today, people would like to get their hands on your slides because there were key takeaways that we would like to go back and review. If you allow us, would you be able to share a copy of your slides so that we could disseminate it to the participants that joined us today?
Sure, will do.
Wonderful. So to everyone who's requested it and popped their email addresses in the chat box, don't despair. You will be receiving an email from us where we share those slides from today. And yes, apart from that, I think from Lungi and myself, thank you to everybody who's joined and also taken time off from their day. If you would like to learn more about what STEM Mentor is doing, please feel free to get in touch with Dr. Sithole and myself. We also have an Instagram page where we have shared some of the things that we have done since we started last year. So please feel free to reach out to us. We already had some comments from people in the audience, the participants asking how they could get involved with mentorship. So please do reach out. We would like to utilize, well, you know, to accept all of the help that we can get to help pay it forward and essentially give back and you know, help the next generation reach their full potential. So that's it from me, the STEM Mentor team. We also had Dr. Ronaldo Benjamin and Dr. Shavara Hansraj as panelists here today. Thank you to everyone who's come through today. We truly appreciate you and your time. And well, hopefully there'll be another STEM Mentor colloquium. So please do stay tuned for more events from us. Yeah, so thank you and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.